Ooh, sorry, y'all. Technical difficulties. What's good, podcast fam? It's your boy Jason Craig, aka the friendly neighborhood dreadhead, and I am back with another interview for you guys today. And we got a special one because if you guys know me, I love my comics. I love my nerdy stuff. So today I am talking to a very creative man, um, a man from way far away from the states. But hey, we glad that he's here. Let me introduce you to a writer, Philip Denson. I hope I said your name right, sir.
Perfect. That's great. Great to be here, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Now, um, for people that do not, for people that does not know, hold on, let me make sure I do this man justice. I like to do all of my guests justice. So let me go ahead and pull this up here. Give him the proper rundown. He, oh, um, He is from Australia. You got to let me know what part of Australia or you reside in.
North.
North. Okay, North Australia. Like I'm bad at geography, y'all, so I can't tell exactly where. But man, is northern. We're just gonna say northern Australia. Um, Comic book writer. So, sir, for the people that don't know, tell us how you got into writing.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I actually come through the screenwriting side of things. So that my day job is a screenwriter. I write feature films and TV. Got some series here in Australia. We've got greenlit for a feature for a series that we're writing on at the moment. A few episodes and sold some features over in the US. I have my agents and managers over there. So working on some stuff there. I've got a feature with Ridley Scott's company, Scott Free, and a bunch of other things over there in the screenwriting side of things. But I've been a huge comic fan since I was a kid, and we a bunch of us from up here got together. We were all kind of in the screen industry, animation, things like that. We were all just friends, and we were like, let's do our own anthology comic. So we all got 10 pages each to do, and this was an idea that I had brewing for, I would say, since I was a teenager. So that's what kind of first got me into writing comics, and then just something fun to do.
Okay, okay. So you said that it was something fun to do. So will you say that this is more of a hobby for you, for the people that don't know you, or is this more of a full-time job for you?
Well, it's because I've got my own company, which is mainly as a producer and screenwriter. I have started to diversify, and we're going to be doing a bit of games and now comics as well. So, although this is the first iteration, this graphic novel, it's the first of many. So, just as a writer, full time job, but my main writing is in the screen industry. But I love comics. It's in many ways, it's that sort of minimum viable product. You can get the images, you can get the writing, you can get it to the audience straight away. I love the artwork. I love sequential art. So yeah, it's becoming a bigger part of my company.
Right. So now you talk about you talk about your company. Um, Give us more insight on the company, like, where you got the name, where you thought of the name for the company, your vision for the company. Just tell us a few of those things.
Yeah, great. So Outlaw is the name of the company. But Outlore. So outlaw, like obviously outlaw, like LAW, but in this case it's the law. I've always loved world building, big interesting worlds. That's what draws me to comics as well. It's things that may not necessarily be an easy sell in the screen side of things, um, or grounded comedies or grounded drama or whatever. It's like sci-fi, fantasy, that fun stuff that I really love. Um, so I love that big world building or the lore behind it. So I called it Outlaw Comics. Is the arm of the company for the comics. We also partnered with Wild North Comics, which is the group of us who got together and came up with the anthology idea. and in doing a lot more publishing of other people's comics, of our own comics, anthologies. So it's a collaboration between Outlaw Comics and Wild North Comics. And Wild North came from the fact that we're in the north of Australia. It's considered a wild place. This is where Crocodile Dundee was shot back in the 80s. Like there's just yesterday there was a python that we caught just outside our house and had to release. So it does feel like a wild place, and we love the idea of kind of leaning into that a bit and letting our imaginations go wild as well, and letting the stories just go where we want them to go.
Okay, so nothing that caught my attention. You while you were explaining plans for your company, I heard you mention games. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, it's very early days, but there is we have some funding, and I've put some of our budget aside to develop some games, and we've got a bit of a spread of it on our slate, from really simple puzzle games that we can do as online mobile games, but also getting up there to some pretty. I mean, it's going to be a long path to get those big games up and running, but we've got some people behind us. We'll see how we go with that. But it's very early days. Like no one's. This is an exclusive. I've not told many people about this at all. So we'll get there one day.
Hey, well, people, you heard it here first. You know, exclude. We got the exclusive games coming soon.
That's
Um,
it.
now, now we all know the reason why we're here today to talk about your latest project. Um, would you mind elaborating for the people the premise of this project and the inspiration for this project?
Absolutely. It's called Future Tales. It was an idea that came to me as a teenager, to be honest. So quite a while back now. I'm getting on. When I was, going through just a bunch of fairy tales. I love old, European and Southeast Asian or African fairy tales or lore or fables. And I did start to find some connections between some of the classic fairy tales. Often it's kids lost in the woods, or there's a wolf involved, like the Three Little Pigs. There's a wolf. There's Little Red Riding Hood. There was a wolf. Um, there's a lot of kind of connections. And in my head, I started thinking, oh, well, this could be a shared universe type situation. But the way my brain thinks is often in sci-fi. I have a background in science, in physics, and I also just am a huge sci-fi nerd since anything science fiction, Philip K. Dick books, all the way to Star Wars, Star Trek. Like I just love that stuff, particularly like cyberpunk, Blade Runner, that kind of jazz. But also post-apocalyptic is something I'm really dug into. So in my head, I kind of thought, what if I could reimagine these very classic fairy tales, which are known the world over, but in a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic world where all the stories are actually interweaving and inform each other. Characters show up in each other's stories. Although their story that is the classic fairy tale, it actually tells one larger story leading up to a final chapter where all our heroes come together to fight the big bad in an Avengers style reunion of these characters.
Oh, okay. So like so basically, like you say, well, it's not really an anthology series since they're all kind of connected, but it's
Yeah,
kind of but it's
sort of.
I guess you would say it's kind of along the lines of anthology since it's multiple stories. It's
Mm.
just the only difference is they unlike a lot of anthology series, it's all kind of connected, and then we get resolution and bring them all together towards the end. Am I getting that right?
You're spot on. That's exactly what it is, and that was sort of the joy of it for me as a creator is working with a different artist for each chapter who can bring their own flavor and their own cultural background, because that's one of the other interesting things when we started producing it is the fact that fairy tales are quite an international thing. Like everyone knows Red Riding Hood all the way from Japan to Bolivia. People know these stories, even though they were European centric stories. They're quite well known. So I wanted to find artists from around the world, all over. We're talking, um, yeah, Morocco, France, Philippines, Brazil. Like we've got a guy from not Kenya. Where was he from? Somewhere, I can't even remember. There was just so many artists from all over the place who could bring their flavor to the art as well in these classic stories, because it was told in a different world, in a futuristic world. It allowed us to play a little bit with that. um, so yeah, it was one of those things where the story can kind of interweave. They can be standalone stories, because that was the whole point. This was part of
Right.
an anthology where I could just put in 10 pages and a kid could read it. We wanted to make it all ages, so it's not super. I mean, I was going to say it's not super sexy. It's sexy in other ways. It just looks cool and it's great. But it's for all ages as well. So we wanted to tap into that idea.
Okay, okay. My next question for you is, as a writer, because I'm a writer too, and I know how difficult it can be just to script a coherent story and make it
Mm.
cohesive. So, how difficult was it to do multiple stories, basically in an anthology format, but but still find a way to bring them all together at the end? Like, how hard was that? Like, how hard is that process for you?
Well, I mean, because I've been writing full time now for at least 5 years, so I'm often used in a way where a director will come to me and I have to break that story, or I'll work with them to find that nugget that they want in making it a cohesive story. So that's part of my skill set, is solving problems. And that's, as writers, and you would know this, as writers, that's sort of what it is. How do we solve this puzzle to make it work? And this
Yeah.
one was more of a puzzle than other projects, because there are distinct pieces. The Red Riding Hood story, how does that connect with Goldilocks story? How does that connect with, the twins, as they called them, which is Hansel and Gretel? Um, and like I said, the great thing is that fairy tales have these interweaving connections. The forest, or a bad guy, the big bad wolf. In our story, the wolf stands for the World Order Liberation Force in this futuristic world, and the woods is this destroyed city. Because this is the other story that is not very apparent through the story, is this underneath story, which is the three little pigs. Because in our story we have three underground cities where the survivors live, and the big
Right.
bad wolf destroyed one, and then they have to escape to the next one, all leading to the final one, where there is. So that's sort of the subtextual story going on underneath it as well. So in one sense, it was difficult because of that, but in another sense, that made it easier because they were separate pieces. I just had to join the dots and have some characters show up in other stories to propel that longitudinal narrative.
Right. And now my next question for you is, because since it's different stories. Um, like I know you said that you work with different artists for these stories. So my question to you is, because like I'm looking at this on the phone screen, so it's kind of hard to tell like the differences in the
Mm.
art. Are are the artists is the art different for is the art different for a lot of these stories? And if the art is different, whenever they do come together, how what is the process of getting all the different art styles to gel together?
Yeah, so this is a really good point, because I originally wanted them to be quite different. I kind of like the idea of, like, thinking of an anthology TV animations like Love, Death, and Robots. I love that the
Yeah.
story is completely different and the animation is completely different in most of these. Ours, obviously, we needed this cohesive line, but I let the artists just do their thing. So we have some more anime inspired art, which, like, say, Raymond Augustin, who is an amazing artist I found from the Philippines. It just sort of nailed his style, which is very modern and clean. But then when I went to a French artist, Darius, and I'm going to mess his last name, but it's Kepczynski, I believe. He's from France. He did that more European sort of style with sometimes it's just round circles for eyes, but a bit more gritty background. And then we went like with a really child-friendly Disney style for the twins chapter. Um, but yeah, they are quite different, but at the same time, you can you recognize the characters. It's that artist's interpretation of the character, but we had a set design for what the characters should look like. So it does
Right.
follow through. It's almost like when you're seeing through the perspective of this character's eyes, you're seeing the world differently in each chapter, and then the final chapter just brings it home with all of them together.
Right. That is like honestly, that's like really dope. I cannot since I have a copy, I can't wait to read it because like I said, when you were explaining it, I was also thinking, oh, wait a minute, if it's multiple stories and different artists, I wonder how all of that's going to
Mm.
blend together. And I think just as for creatives like us, it's an interesting challenge because um I don't know how you feel, but in a way, different. I feel like different styles, like different art styles and writing, you kind of have to write each story like kind of
Mm.
style it differently, like format it differently. Because if you have, like you said, the more European, which is like a more I guess not pseudo realism, but more of a, I want to say not
Like,
grungy, but like a more tired. I'm gonna say like a more tired look. You have somewhere like
yeah.
a more tired look. You can't. I feel like the writing wouldn't mix. The writing for the more tired look would mix well with the more happy, vibrant Disney look, and the happy, vibrant Disney look. It would like the writing for that wouldn't work with uh say like the modern, I guess, anime type style. It wouldn't
Mm.
work with the frantic anime type style that a lot of modern comics tend to use nowadays. Because I had an interview before and we were talking about how the modern anime style is kind of taken over in all of media. Like I just got done watching My Adventures with Superman, and that is probably the most anime Superman show I have ever seen. So, for you, would you say that you had to kind of change the format up a little bit when it came to, trying to gel with the different art styles that the artists were giving you?
Yeah, it's interesting because we selected the artists as I was going often, but I would select them mainly before their previous art for that project. So it's a great example. If I chose Yusuf, who's from Nigeria, Yusuf Adelaide, amazing artist I found online. I probably wouldn't use his art for another story, but it was perfect for the one we picked.
Right,
So it is about. I don't know necessarily if I change the writing, but I would write something with an intention in mind. So, like, I think the best example from Future Tales is the twins chapter, the Hansel and Gretel chapter, because they're lost in the sewers, like lost in the woods, and leaving breadcrumbs, but they get eaten by the rats, and they get caught by these scavengers like the witch. That story feels a lot more child focused, and that's why we went more of that Disney style. And that was from an amazing company in the Philippines called Purple Llama Creative. That's actually they're a group of them, and they do all the color, the artwork. They're great, and they also do animation. We're going to be working on some other projects too, and they just kind of took it and ran with that in that style because that's what I asked them to do. If I
right,
have a more serious one, such as our second last one, which is the Rapunzel one, which is basically all set up for the final chapter, and it's a little bit, it goes a little bit more into just some talking heads. Yeah, a different art was required. So it's interesting that you said that. I don't know if I intentionally changed the format, but I definitely had an idea in mind, an art style in mind for the certain chapters.
right. And like you said, since they all come together at the end, like since they all go like blends together at the end, I feel like it's gonna be a challenge, but an interesting challenge for
Mm.
you, to have it all still, even though it's different styles and like different formats, even though you weren't trying to. It's going to be interesting to see how it all gels
Melds up.
together because, like I said, it's because like I said, what the way you described it, it's very ambitious because not only is it an anthology format, but it's also an anthology that follows a main story, which I don't think I have heard before. Like Love, Death, and Robots, kinda because the three robots, they're kind of going like they kind of got their story going on, the quote unquote main story, but it's still not really a story. It's just following them. That's all it's doing. But like
Yeah,
I
it's all
do
set
like
in the same world. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I do like I said, I'm very interested in reading it. Like you did hook me because just like you, sci-fi, sci-fi apocalypse, cyberpunk. I love the cyberpunk genre. Like um I forgot the name of the book because I read it so long ago. Is it Robots Dream of Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah, that's the
Um,
Philip K. Dick book. Yeah, I love it.
yeah. So I love that. Um, Blade Runner, even though it's a lot to take in, I love Blade Runner. Just Cyberpunk, the game, and then the board game, like
Mm.
the role playing game itself. I
Mm.
love that. Like I love anything that has to do with cyberpunk, big corpos, basically running the world, and going against the system. I love all that. So you honestly got me hooked, and then I'm just curious to see how folk tales that we all grew up with, how that will work in that type of setting. Because like I
Yeah.
said, that's interesting because I don't think I've heard of that being done before.
Yeah, great. Well, that was the intention. Even when I first was devising it 10 years ago, it was like I want to see this. I haven't seen this before. The artwork. I mean, I even got one of the copies here. I don't know if you can see it, but we got that nice gold foil cover. I hope you got one like that. Yeah, so we really kind of put a bit of love into this one, and it was ambitious in the sense that it's a 100-page graphic novel. That was our first. It wasn't a one issue comic. It's a full complete graphic novel. It comes in. It's standalone. But it was also a little bit tricky because each chapter is 10 pages, which is not a lot of pages to chuck in a story at times. So I felt like, man, I would love to redo this as a like bigger, more like getting deeper into the characters. That being said, though, I also like the pace of the comic, and now we've even got interest in it as an animated series. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, if you get a copy, then you'll be ahead of the game.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, I got it. For me, I gotta get a physical copy because, like I said, you sold me on it, and it's cyber like you said, post apocalyptic, cyberpunk, two favorite
Mm.
genres. So I'm already sold. Now, my question to you is: you brought up the cyberpunk post apocalyptic genre. What would you say? You know, is your favorite slash in most inspirational works within that genre?
Oh, see, I'm not great at favorites because I'm quite eclectic and I love so many things. But if you're going cyberpunk, we've already mentioned these two. You can't go past Philip K. Dick and also Blade Runner. Like Ridley Scott, and I'm lucky enough to be working with Ridley, or at least with his company Scott Free. It like is the godfather of that in the film side of things.
Right.
Um, it's hard to go past that. But that being said, there is so many other, especially more in the animation side of things too. Like Ghost in the Shell, I love.
Oh,
Obviously, in the
great.
game side of things, The Last of Us and the post-apocalyptic type world, and obviously as a TV series that hit it out of the park as well. But then in the animation side of things, it would be, I mean, Arcane. If you've seen Arcane on,
Oh, I love Arcane. Arcane to me is pure. Arcane is just peak cinema to me. Like that. I'm not even a
the
League of Legends
visual,
fan.
Right. Well, that's the
I'm
thing. I wasn't huge in League of Legends. I knew of it, and I knew some of the stories, but just the animation, the look they went for in that was like, I was like drooling. It was That's how good I was. Like, I will watch it. Then the storytelling was on point as well. So
right,
that always helps. You need that. But it's interesting. People like us, we might be attracted because of genre or because of the visuals, but in the end, we're writers. The story has to be good.
right.
Has to be good storytelling and lead us on. So yeah, I mean, there's so much I could go through. I probably have a whole list, but yeah, it's hard to pick favorites, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Like for me, if you ever watch my podcast, my crew gets sick of me. But one thing I always say, even if a movie or a show is not that good, if you can get me invested into the world building, I'm for it because I am a sucker for world building. Because I feel like you can have a great story, but if your world is dull to me, even though the story is great, I'm not going to enjoy it as much because I feel like, for me, I feel like what makes a great piece of media is if not only are you telling a story with the characters, but if you're telling a story with the world itself.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
always
that's a really.
that's been my problem. Going on a little tangent here. That's been my problem with Star Wars. Star Wars, the world building is just recycled assets that they used for years, not really expanding on anything besides Andor. Andor is probably the closest they got to world building and early seasons of Mando. But like, um, I am a sucker for world building because I feel like that's a basis of a story. That's why I feel like works like Game of Thrones, Lord
Mm,
of the Rings. That's why I feel like those things are so good because the world they feel your world has to feel lived in. It has to feel lived in, and you have to, even if it is made up or make believe, it has to feel real. Like, oh, this, like I can actually see myself living in this world, living a life in this world.
mm. Or what it would be like. I
So,
mean, I'm the same with the world building. I'm a sucker for something new and different that I haven't seen before, to the point where I would watch a film like on Netflix. There was this new film called Uglies. I would go and watch that, even if it's not great. I would choose that over like an Oscar-winning drama, even though I know I would love that drama eventually, and it might
right,
make me cry or whatever. Because the world of it is like, oh, I haven't seen that world before. I want to see what that is. So I'm more attracted to big swings, interesting, diverse, unique worlds that I've never seen before.
right. Now I do want to ask you because, like, I've, people that know me, I say that Alien and Alien, just the Alien franchise, especially the first two, my they're two of my favorite movies when it comes to the sci-fi slash horror genre.
Yeah.
So for you, what is it like, even if it's like not directly working with Ridley Scott, what is it like working with the studio? The studio that is probably, well, not even just the studio from the man that's probably the most iconic man when it comes to sci-fi because uh, we know about it. Our parents know about it. Our
Mm.
kids are probably going to know about it. Like, how does it feel to work with Ridley Scott Studio and um how like and how much of a compatible match is it for you and your company?
Well, the project we have with them is a really interesting science fiction that really gets into. It's a layered, almost literary type one. And I won't go into the details, but it's kind of intense and there's a lot of twists and turns and things, but it's quite contained. And Tom and Vera at Scott Free are just good thinkers. They can understand what good sci-fi is. So that's what I think Ridley has done, is built up a team of people who get story but also get genre storytelling. So I mean, it's exciting. Obviously, hopefully that project can kick on and we can get it made. But it's sort of in that world, in the TV and film world. It's great to be able to connect with these people who've done some big stuff. Like I got a phone call from Ron Howard in 2019, flew me over to LA for 10 weeks. Like had meetings with some pretty big names, and it's just good that it's these people are also they care about the story first. So that it doesn't even matter who you are as the writer. If you write a good story, and it's something interesting that we haven't seen before, it can get to these people and go who will see the same thing that you saw in it and go, yep, okay, this has merit, and we want to get this to the world. So and in fact, sometimes it has to start using IP, like getting a comic book out there. Sometimes it's just writing a script and getting it out there. But as a creator, whatever you write, whoever's listening to this, whether you write prose or scripts, or you design stuff, or you're just an artist and you're creating a world just through visuals, stick with it. And you never know, like someone will see what you see in it, and hopefully you can get to Ridley Scott.
Hey man, that's the dream. Like right now, if I was if I was in your shoes, just me personally, I would probably I would be too giddy of excitement just because, like I said, as Alien and Aliens. I know that it was James Cameron, once Ridley Scott, but
Mm,
those are my two favorite sci-fi movies. It gave me one of my favorite female and protagonists, and
yeah.
it's very hard for they've gotten that the last movie got very close to recapturing the magic. Just
Mm.
that is.
Yeah. On
But
Romulus.
yeah, like I said, Romulus. I really enjoyed Romulus, but it's still about those first two movies. Is just something special about them. Just so for me, I'm the type of person. I'm happy for you, just because I know working with with Scott Free Studios, Ridley Scott's company. That's a huge to me. That's a huge deal, just because of just the legacy behind the man of the man that owns the studio. And I can't wait to see what you do in the future. And I can say I got an interview. I can say that.
Well,
But
we'll
also,
come back and have an interview again when the film comes out. How about that?
oh yeah, man. Hey, I'll be there. I'll even wear a silly costume if you give it to me. So now you piqued my interest. Hey, so when can we expect the show for Future Tales? That's what I want to know.
We've just got a little bit of interest, like very recently. So we'll see what happens. But what I would love to see with that is, good animation. We could just keep the same animation through it, and like every episode is the story. Like Little Red Riding Hood has her story, and then Goldilocks, and then Jack and the Beanstalk. Sure, as an episode, like a half-hour again, leading up to a final episode, which brings them all together. That's what the comic is, and that's what I think it would be quite nice to do in a series. However, there is also the possibility of getting different animation studios from around the world, like they did with Love, Death, and Robots, to do each chapter, and then bringing it together for the final one, to give it that different point of difference that people. I know for me, I would like to see a really like special 3D for one, 3D animation, and then maybe like a 2D animation for another one, and like it could be cool like that, and it might work out in the budget to be better to do it that way, because then we can have 8 different animation studios working at the same time. But we'll see. It's very early days. We'd want to get it to in front of the big bosses and see what they say, and I probably shouldn't say too much because nothing.
I
There's
know I
nothing.
won't I won't get you in trouble, but hey, I'm putting a PSA out there. Hey, Studio Studio Trigger.
I love
If
it.
Studio Trigger, hey, I want to see one of them. I want to see you animate one of these episodes. I got to. So
Thank
Studio Trigger. So Studio Trigger, I put that out there. I'm just throwing that out there. Um. So now we done got all the agenda stuff out there. We promoted you a little bit, promoted your company a little bit, gave a shout out. Well, really, me just blowing Ridley Scott. But we done got all that out the way. So now we get into the fun stuff.
you.
What we like to do on this show, we like to spin a wheel. Sadly, I don't think I got that wheel. So What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you four choices. I'm going to give you
Okay.
four choices. You got to pick number one through four, and it's going to be a mix between either movies, comics, writers, and directors. And you got to
Mm.
give me the Mount Rushmore. So I'm gonna give you a second to give me number one through four.
Let's go with three.
Go with three. Okay, we got movies. We got
Okay.
movies for you. Now, like I said, it's the Mount Rushmore.
Oh my
So
god.
this is your Mount Rushmore. This is yours. Not nobody
Okay.
else. So this is yours. This is what you feel are in your mind the four most influential films to you. Now, I know something's gonna get left out. Something's gonna get left out, but it's all on you.
Yeah,
And
great.
I'm a, so the floor is yours, man.
All right. Well, I mean, this is so hard because there's so many, and when you leave one thing out, it doesn't. But hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say number one, um, not in any order, but just something that comes to my head. Akira. I saw that as a younger guy. It was on like a VHS or something, and that kind of blew my mind because I think behind before that animation was just Disney animations and kids stuff, and I was like into Transformers. The Transformers movie is amazing, but Akira made me go, wow, this is what can be done in this medium. I'm gonna go with uh, Fifth Element. The Fifth
Okay.
Element was this such a. I mean, I was into some European comics by that time, and Mobius, the artwork of Mobius, and Fifth Element sort of brought all that European kind of sci-fi together. 2000 AD and heavy metal, all that kind of stuff that I loved. Um, I can't go past maybe Raiders of the Lost Ark just because I'm just a huge like adventure indie fan, and it's just iconic. I just can't go past it. And you know what? I'm going to cop out a little bit, and the last one I'm going to go with A New Hope, just because
Oh,
it is what it is. I mean, I could talk about like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and like I don't know Pan's Labyrinth, and all these other cool films that I love, or South Korean cinema. But you know what? These are just the films that, as just meant something to me, and they're all kind of genres. So yeah, let's go with those four. That's my Mount Rushmore.
all right. You Mount Rushmore. Okay, okay. I like it. I like it. I really fucks with the Akira one because that was honestly the first anime movie I seen was
Yeah.
Akira, and then Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell to me, not the live action. We don't talk about that,
Yeah, come
but
on.
but Ghost in the Shell, the movie is great. Also, Alita Battle Angel, which actually
Yes,
had a which actually had a decent live action adaptation.
I hear they might be
Like,
doing a sequel. They might. It didn't go huge gangbusters for them, but it made enough money that they might be able to do a lower budgeted sequel. So we'll see.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a good live action. It was one of the best live action adaptations for anime. But also, we don't have much to pull from, y'all. We got Dragon Ball Evolution. Um,
Don't mention
we
it.
got Mob Psycho 100. The Attack on Titan. Yeah, so the bar is not that high, but it works. Okay, it
Yeah,
works. Now,
and we've got the original films anyway. That's what we should be going back to. Watch the original Ghost in the Shell animation. Oh, so good.
yeah,
And
of course, yeah, of course.
and bloody Alita, Battle Angel, yeah, all that stuff. It's great to have the live actions, but the good thing is we always know that the originals are there and they are so good. Perfect Blue is another animation feature, which is a bit more drama, psychological that I really liked. But yeah, like that's the thing. Sure, we can get these live actions eventually, and if they do it justice, but we have the originals, we can always watch them, and we
Ah,
should.
but Phil, but Phil, that don't make money. That don't make
Yeah,
money. We have to make these things live action. Otherwise,
yeah,
people ain't gonna see it. So we got to make that money.
yeah, exactly.
So now, my next question to you is, this is just off kilter question. What are you looking? what form of media, whether it's a video game, comic, movie, TV show, what are you looking forward to that you saw a teaser or trailer of? You say, you know what, I cannot wait to see that.
I'm about to take. I've got some young kids. I'm about to take my kids to see Transformers One, I believe it's called, which is like, um, I mean, the Michael Bay films. You give like there's some good stuff in there, but I was from the original Transformers, where I like to see, back on day, back in Cybertron and all that stuff. So I'm kind of keen on that. I know Chris Hemsworth is the lead voice actor as well. There's a few things coming up. Arcane season two, I'm kind of keen on. Um, there's a new comic of mine that I'm keen on. Everyone's saying that I'm working on, but that might be a while. And I would say I'm kind of really keen on seeing what I know it's a bit of again a cop out, but I'm kind of keen to seeing what the MCU will do with mutants, with the X-Men. I don't want them to screw it up. We'll see what happens, but yeah,
Yeah, hey man, that's like I said. When it comes to them, if you watch my show, you know how I feel about the MCU. We have a
yeah,
very rocky relationship right now, so I just don't know. I don't. I'm excited. Well, no, you know what? I'm not excited for nothing for the MCU right now. I am more just curious. I'm just
mm,
curious to see what they're going to do with things. Deadpool was funny. Like I said, it
yeah,
didn't really add no new. It didn't change my. It didn't change my mind of the MCU. I still think the
mm,
MCU was lacking, but I am interested to see what they do with mutants. I mean, I've seen teasers for the mutants for the past like 3 years.
yeah.
I've yet I've yet to see an official X anywhere in the MCU. So yeah, man, we gonna see. Curious about Fantastic Four. I've been waiting years for them to get that right.
Pedro Pascal, he'll do it well, I'm sure.
I hope so because I'm starting to lose hope. I'm really starting to lose hope. Ant Man almost broke me. That
Uh,
Ant Man almost broke me. Um, but before we get out of here, hey, I'm gonna give you a soapbox, and I'm gonna let you get on your soapbox. Hey, give some encouraging words to all the creatives out there in the world, and how they can be successful and love what they love to do. The
yeah.
floor is yours. So
I'll
give
start
us
with
some
saying
words of wisdom.
where I live is quite a remote place in Australia. People in Sydney and Melbourne, the big place, they wouldn't even look up here for creatives, for writers. But I just had the passion. I lived out in a remote community, Indigenous community, for 4 years, and I wrote something. I got it into a competition over in the US, and a producer got it onto that, and we got that option, and then I wrote something else, and I got an option, and then I got a management and stuff. So, and that's in that side of things, the screen side of things, and in the comic side of things, it doesn't cost much to write a script. It might cost, if you're not an artist, you might have to pay an artist or work with artists, but it doesn't cost money to write. So I just tell people, write and keep writing. And you know what? Every 10 ideas we have, two of them might be viable, but we just keep coming up with them and we keep developing and we honing our craft. And so even so with me living in a completely remote part of the country, which is in a remote part of the world, was able to get story out there and get some people into it and trick them into giving me money. And it's been continuing for a few years now. I feel like anyone, if you just keep having the passion to keep working on it, and the wherewithal to be like, is it good enough? Keep working on it, get better, push that project aside. It's done. Work on something new. Keep going. I don't. It doesn't matter where you are, what country you're in, what language you speak. You can really still tell great stories. So please keep telling them.
Okay, okay. Well, people, you heard them first. Get out there, get that pen to paper. If
Absolutely.
you are, just put that, put that pen, that pencil to paper. Get out there, make these works, and you can be successful. But
Absolutely.
man, Philip, I had a great time tonight. This was a very fun conversation, very insightful conversation. I learned a lot, you know, right, like by writing just from one creator to another. So I really do appreciate that. Hopefully, everybody, you go check this man's book out. It's on Amazon, Future Tales. And I don't want to hear that you don't got the money. I looked at the price. The price says $20. You got $20. I know you got $20. Look, be I know some of y'all be paying for that Netflix. Look, you can cancel that Netflix for a month. You could have canceled Netflix for a month. Give my man Phil your money. Just give my man Phil your money, because I know I will. So do it.
Uh,
And I'm gonna put his website's in the comment section. For anybody wants to check it out, I'm gonna put the Amazon link in the comment section as well. Please go check it out. And we just want everybody that comes to talk with me to be successful. That's all we want. Because when you're successful, I'm successful.
yeah,
So hey man, but it's been very fun. But people, you know where to find us. Brang Da Popcorn on all social media platforms. Like I said, don't go on OnlyFans and type that in, because I don't know what you're gonna find. I warned you. But Facebook, Instagram, I keep one called Twitter, X, X. That's what it's called. It's called X. Um, but hey, Phil, where can people find you at? If not here, or in Northern Australia, where can they find you at?
I'm hidden away on the socials, to be honest. But yeah, the website's good. And hey, I should say, if we haven't sent you a hard copy, Jason, you'll get one in the mail. Don't you worry.
Oh man. Oh, don't tell me that. I love me hard copies of comics. I
Okay.
do. I feel so
Yeah,
special.
coming your way.
All right. Well, man, feel like I said, I don't know what time it is in Australia. I was not good at reading time zones, but I hope you have a good night, morning, day, afternoon, whatever time it is in Australia. I think I'm not going to try to think, because I'm going to just sound stupid on when I watch this on repeat. But hey, y'all, remember when you come to these, yeah, I'm gonna say reviews. When you come to these interviews, just remember to always bring the popcorn. All right, y'all, we up out of here. Peace.